polls have opened for a second day in Egypt's landmark parliamentary elections. Voter turnout has been massive, with Egyptians waiting hours and hours in line to cast their ballots. It's exactly what many who pushed President Hosni Mubarak out of power had been waiting for: free elections without the fear of ballot rigging and the suppression of political parties. Now, the voting will take place over the next 4 months, so we won't have results right away. But the world will be watching to see if Egyptians choose a more secular or Islamist government. I sat down to talk about all of this with Professor Hillel Frisch at Ilan University. He's a researcher at the Begin-Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Well, we don't have the figures yet, and Egypt is a big place, and certainly no one is really covering all of Egypt, so we really don't have the accurate turnout. But we know that certainly in the upper middle class neighborhoods, people are turning out in droves. The question is to what extent the poor people are coming out. And most wealthy Egyptians have never been to really very poor areas. There's tremendous differentiation. But people are excited about the elections, and there was a tremendous turnout in Tunisia. So this is basically just following that pattern.
How well do you think the Muslim Brotherhood's going to do in these elections?
They're no doubt going to be the major party. We don't know whether they're going to win a plurality or an absolute majority. That's really the central issue.
And if they win an absolute majority, what does that mean? What are some of the implications?
The biggest implication for Israel is whether they'll abrogate the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty. That's the biggest issue. And I think that they won't. And the reason is that Egypt is different from Iran. Iran had an oil which it could sell under any political circumstances and earn a lot of money. I mean, $78 billion last year. This is something that Egypt doesn't have. Egypt is even a net importer of energy. So this means that they have a very international economy, they have a very fragile ecology, and they'll need those international markets, they'll need international aid, they'll need international know-how, and they're going to have to moderate.
And the secular parties in this election, we've seen in the past they've been pretty weak. Do you think that this has empowered them at all?
Not at all. I mean, what's happening in Egypt is what is happening in almost all revolutionary situations, where the good guys finish last. And basically they're used...
Good guys meaning the guys who actually kicked off the revolution.
Who kicked off the revolution, the liberal guys, and these are the guys that are discarded by the more ruthless and organized, even minority, and in this case, the majority. We saw that in the French Revolution, we saw that in the Bolshevik Revolution, and we saw that in the Iranian Revolution. And it's just amazing how the New York Times could get it so wrong.
But why is that? Because they're less organized than the other guys?
They're much less organized.
Less money?
They're much less organized, they have less money, they're much more divided, they're much less ruthless, and they also act often in an irresponsible manner. I mean, they're weakening the very military that can be their only support against the Islamists. In fact, the Islamists are using
That's right. The army.
The liberals to taint the army, which is their major opposition.
Right. It's very interesting how the Islamists actually are playing both sides when it's convenient for them.
Right.
We'll stay out of the protest because we want the elections
They initiated the protest and then they moved out,
exactly,
leaving the secular to challenge the military, and in order to taint the military even more. That's the name of the game.
So do the secularists even have a chance of being an important voice in this new government?
I don't think so. When their time will come will be after the Muslim Brotherhood will fail in governing Egypt. And it will almost inevitably fail because there are such tremendous problems. Then sort of Egypt will settle down to some kind of democratic process. But that's in the long term. The situation is going to get worse
before it gets better.
Before it gets better.
Why do you think the Muslim Brotherhood are going to fail in running Egypt?
First of all, because they're new to governance, and like everything else, like the sages, the Jewish sages say, all beginnings are difficult, and it's a difficult job to govern Egypt. Mubarak did a pretty good job, but there's going to be a lot of investment and lack of confidence of investors. There's going to be tensions initially, at least, with the European community, the United States. I mean, this is all going to impact badly on the Egyptian economy. I just want to point out that even in the most successful revolutionary situations, Poland and Hungary, when the Soviet Union fell, where everyone was supporting them, the European community, the World Bank, the United States, it took 10 years for Poland and Hungary to attain the same economic level as the last years of communism. So in almost all revolutionary situations, the situation gets worse before it gets better.
Dr. Hillel Frisch from the Begin-Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, thank you so much for joining us today on JN1.